Hi, I'm Jack Wood from Planet Eclipse, and today we're going to run through a few features of the new Cure 3 bolt and also installation of the Cure 3 bolt into your existing guns. First of all, we've got some high-speed footage that's going to show the development from the standard 0506 bolt through the Cure 1, Cure 2 and up to the Cure 3 bolt, and how each of the incremental changes we've made in the design has gone to improve the performance of the bolts, how they work in the gun, how they handle the paint feeding down from the breech and into the gun. So we're going to show you some of these high-speed footage clips. These are filmed at about 12,000 frames per second, so you can see in graphic detail the small changes that the bolt has made into the way that paintball's handled in the breech. You'll also be able to see exactly what happens when something goes wrong and where you can actually deform a paintball to the point of it breaking prior to it actually arriving in the breech, and how that in turn then looks like a barrel break or a chop in the breech, when in fact the damage was already done to the paintball before it actually got into the gun. So we're going to show you those first, and then I'll go through installation of the Cure 3 bolt and how to insert the pin. And I hope you enjoy it all, and I hope you'll come back to the Planet Eclipse learning channel again. We'll keep these updated on a regular basis with technical information and things that we might the things that we find interesting, and we hope you find them interesting too. So enjoy, and I'll see you again soon. Okay, so here's the first clip, and this is an Ego 5 bolt in an Ego 9. You can see as the bolt comes forwards, it actually clips the bottom of the second ball in the stack, and this is the main thing that we were trying to prevent with the Cure bolts. It's a very common phenomenon, and most bolts will experience this with some kind of force feed loader. Bolt comes forwards, you see it clips the bottom of the second ball, and then as that ball lands in the base of the breech, you can see the back of it ballooning outwards, and actually a little bit of paint leaking out of the back. Bolt then obviously comes forwards and fires this paintball, and as you can see, it results in a huge explosion of paint. That would normally give you something that would look like a barrel burst. Paint's coated all down the inside of the barrel. There's a small amount of paint on the face of the bolt after this shot's been fired, but nothing significant in the breech area. So that's the first clip, and that's what's happening there. So on to clip 2. This one starts off the same, where the bolt comes forwards, and this one you can quite clearly see the front of the bolt clipping the bottom of the second ball. You can see the smear of like a slug trail down the top of the bolt as the bolt travels under the second ball, because that paintball's already cracked and broken. As the bolt retracts, you can quite clearly see that that crack has propagated all the way around the back of the ball and weakened the shell considerably, and as that ball falls in, it collapses further at the bottom of the breech. Is well and truly broken by the time it hits the bottom of the breech. But at this point there's no paint actually in the breech, there's no paint in the feed tube, or even a significant amount of paint on the bolt. As this one goes through, you can see that the second ball actually compresses down into the top of the broken first ball, just partially, but just enough so that you can see that as this bolt comes forwards now to fire this next shot, that this is going to make a real mess. As the bolt comes forwards, it chops the bottom off that second ball. And then you now have not just the explosion of the first ball that was broken, but also part of the second ball. So there you can see a different kind of failure, but this resulting in something that looks like a chop, when in fact, the ball was already broken prior to it being fired. This third clip is a Cure 1 bolt. So this was our first attempt at seriously negating this issue of the second ball being clipped in the stack by the bolt coming forwards. and it does work very, very well. A couple of things to point out here. You can see that the ramp on the top of the Cure 2 bolt actually leads to the second ball being pushed back up into the breech as the back up into the feed as the bolt comes forward and fires the first ball. This is only something we recently discovered could cause an issue, and hence one of the changes to the Cure 3 bolt. But looking at the Cure 1, you can see that the ball drops in and actually bounces around in the breech quite a bit. The ball does actually move backwards and forwards between the detent and the face of the bolt quite considerably between each shot, a lot more than you would expect. Obviously at 12,000 frames a second, it makes this look like it's taking forever to settle. In reality, it's taking fractions of a second, but it's still quite a lot of movement. Particularly on the last shot, you can see that the ball moves quite a few millimeters between the detents and the face of the bolt. So, two areas of improvement we could look at there. In clip 4 here, we're looking at the Cure 2 bolt. You can see on this one that the ramp in the top is the same, and again you can see as the bolt comes forwards, it's pushing the second ball in the stack back up into the feed tube. Again, the bolt works very well, but there is room for improvement, particularly in the way that the second ball is being compressed back up into the stack, and what effect that has when the balls in the stack are compressed between the bolt being forced upwards and the loader trying to force downwards. So, but the big improvement with the Cure 2 bolt is, if you notice, the balls fall into the breech and they settle very quickly in the bottom of the breech. The cup in the face of the Cure 2 bolt stops the ball rolling backwards and forwards between the detent and the face of the bolt. In fact, it not just helps settle the ball quicker, it also means that the stack is kept in a nice vertical line. All the balls stacked nicely on top of each other. There's no overlapping into the breech. Finally, we're on to the Cure 3 bolt. So the cup has very slight modifications. Again, you can see that the ball settles really quickly in between the shots. The ball just drops down into the breech, straight into the bottom of the breech, and is settled immediately between the ball detents and the face of the bolt. The stack again is nice and straight, and when the bolt starts to move forwards, there's no slack between the ball starting to accelerate and the ball being pushed forwards. They both move forwards, both accelerated simultaneously. What you'll also see on the Cure 3 is that the new slot in the top of the body, the new ramp profile, means that the balls aren't actually pushed up at all into the back up into the feed tube or back up into the stack. So there's no added compression on the stack. So this should, well, it does really help with alleviating any crushing of the balls in the stack between the top of the bolt and the propeller system in the force feed loader. Paint also falls down quicker as the bolt retracts, as the balls are already sitting lower to start with. So again, you can see we're making small and incremental improvements to the bolt design, all in the cause of trying to be able to shoot the most fragile paint, and we're definitely getting there.